That's the address. But moving on, and something completely different. Spotting the next big thing is an extremely valuable asset, whether it's predicting the next hot gadget, discovering new business trends, or maybe even realizing what countries offer the best growth prospects. What's in store for '07? Well, Marian Salzman is the Executive Vice President at J. Walter Thompson and the co-author of, among other things, Next Now, a new book. And she joins us. Hi, Marian.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Well, we're very pleased that you'd come in and visit with us. So what is a trend spotter, and how do you become one?
I think a trend spotter is probably a fairly sophisticated market researcher who then moves over into strategy and starts building a history of predicting what's going to happen in the relatively near future. I'm not a science fiction writer. I don't go 15 or 20 years out. I tend to prefer consumer insights that lead me to develop projections on where people are going to be consuming and living, how they're going to be living, working, etc., 3 to 5 years into the near future.
So you take just small inklings of the way society is going now.
Typically, I'll find a data point, a statistical data point, if I can, and it will set me off on a qualitative journey. And when I find enough support points, I'll begin to spin a hypothesis and go back into the data to build the case, as if I was doing a geometric proof.
Sure. And you've been able to predict quite a few of the trends that have actually happened.
Yeah, so far so good.
And what are some of the trends that you'd say we should be looking out for? I know that you have 10 new trends that are kind of on the agenda.
You know, in the Anglo-American world, I'd say one of the biggest things is the whole rise of Chindia. The fact that there's over 2 billion people with very, very different sets of value and ethics than Americans or Brits, but who are effectively competing with us and have really changed the name of the game. They have all kinds of style influences in our everyday world. I mean, we need to take Bollywood as seriously as we take Hollywood. But there's even more than that going on in Chindia, and I think we need to be aware of that. That's certainly one of the big ones I'm looking at. And the whole rise of green. I mean, Al Gore and a PowerPoint have really changed the way I think each of us as marketeers and as consumers are thinking about the planet. We realize it's not nice to say global warming. It sounds nice because it's warmer outside. It's actually an awful, awful word.
But a lot of these so-called trends or movements in society, however you want to see it, come about because we have to. We have to take it into consideration because, you know, you see competition from China and India, or the global warming becomes such a big issue, so they're so big that you can't ignore them.
But believe it or not, a great many people do ignore it. I mean, I'll give you an example. In 1993, I started writing really, really aggressively about food fear. And I went to speak to 2 or 3 major food manufacturers. Each one said to me, I don't know what you're talking about. And one of my predictions then had been that people would want to see a jar of mayonnaise. They'd want to even know where the eggs were hatched, you know, where they'd been laid on the farm, because they wanted to understand all the sourcing. Now I go into any of your food shops, and I can really follow the sourcing for anything that's available, pretty much from farm to my kitchen table.
You have a point there. You definitely have a point. I also noted in some of the research about you that there's this trend towards becoming antisocial as well.
Yeah, but in the new antisocial is something really, on one level it's funny, on another level it's really tragic. I mean, I was at a great dinner last night, 9 of us sitting around a table, seemingly enjoying our food in each other's company, and 7 of the 9 had BlackBerries out, and 2 were BlackBerrying each other. And I thought to myself, proof positive, the new antisocial is the new normal. But you see people managing their own worlds with their iPods. You see people reverting to homeschooling so they can educate their kids as they'd like. So more and more emphasis on taking ourselves out of society and living and working and being from a home station where we control the influences. Do you find that, do businesses listen? Do they listen when you say, well, maybe not now, maybe not in 5 years, maybe not even in 10 years, but definitely in 15 years this will be huge? I find it very, very hard to sell more than 3 to 5 years out, because I think we're living in such narrow, narrow windows. I mean, Wall Street or the city is judging people on a next quarter or 2 quarters from now. So I don't think that people really care about the 5-year window unless they're maybe in a technology or a long lead innovations business. But certainly in the fast-moving consumer goods business, you can get them hooked on something 3 to 5 years down the road.
So what's going to be kind of the top gadget or the top pick, the top trend for '07?
You know, for me, I think it's going to be simplicity. That we've overloaded on absolutely everything. We're suddenly going to want less to be more. So if it's going to be the new iPhone, and suddenly in simplicity is going to be all the tools that I really didn't want to master. I didn't want a PhD in IT to use my telephone. And maybe that's going to be it. I mean, certainly Apple's been at the forefront of the simplicity movement for decades.
Making it very consumer friendly. Thank you very much for joining us today. Marian Salzman, Executive Vice President at J. Walter Thompson and co-author of Next Now.